Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Numbers. I'm Randy Kardas, and today we're talking about something that can make or break a nonprofit in 2026: donor management and nonprofit system automation. If you're a development leader, an executive director, or the CFO who somehow got volunteered into helping with the database, you already know the pressure is real. Funding sources can shift fast, and when grants tighten up, your team gets pushed harder into grassroots fundraising and major gift conversations. That's not just stressful, it exposes every crack in your process. Here's the problem I see over and over: donor data lives in too many places: spreadsheets, email tools, event signups, a donation form that technically exists but still feels like it was built when dial up was a luxury. And when your systems don't talk to each other, engagement becomes a black hole. You're forced to guess who's warm, who's drifting, and who's ready for that next conversation. The good news: solutions are not out of reach. You don't need a 5-year digital transformation plan and a team of 20 consultants. You need a clean donor journey, clean data, and automation that makes the right next step obvious. Today's interview was recorded live at the Sage Future Conference for Partners, and I'm joined by Darryl from DonorPerfect. We dig into what modern donor management can look like, how automation helps you thank donors consistently, how scoring and alerts help you prioritize outreach, and how integrating donor systems with accounting systems like Sage Intacct can save a ridiculous amount of time. All right, let's jump in. Hey, Darryl. I'm so happy to be here at the Sage Future Conference for Partners. How are you doing today?
Randy, I'm doing great. It's been a superb conference for us. I mean, some really good sessions so far.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I walked past your booth over at Donor Perfect, and I thought donor management is being revolutionized today. And you showed me some awesome stuff.
Well, it's been very exciting for our product to evolve, and particularly with the integration pieces. So one of the things that I do at Donor Perfect is I make sure that our product can communicate with all the other necessary functions that are involved in a nonprofit. And one of those happens to be Sage Intacct. And that's been one of the most exciting things that we've done in the last two years.
So, what are you seeing nonprofits face today in terms of donor management? Like some of the challenges that they're encountering?
Well, as we know right now, the political nature is a bit of a challenge because some of the grants are being cut. And so it's putting more pressure on the fundraising team. And so the fundraisers have to be going out there and doing grassroots fundraising, finding the people that are actually going to contribute and support their cause and their mission.
That must be scary too, because the funding of the grants are really what allow these organizations to execute on their mission. So, with Donor Perfect, I want to hear more about how your solution really comes into play for an organization who's really looking to elevate to the next level.
Well, the key thing is to really make sure that you're collecting the information about the donor. The more that you know about the donor, the better that you can actually communicate to them and solicit them when it comes time to raise money. And so everything from when they volunteered to when was their last gift, what their lifetime gift value is, even from, whether or not they responded and opened an email that you sent is collected inside of the CRM. So you actually have a good pulse on who's paying attention to your message and your mission.
No, that's great. So it sounds like there's insights in terms of engagement.
Very much so.
So engagement seems to be like a black hole sometimes for an organization that might not leverage a system that can easily provide this type of insight. Like what can this do for an organization?
Well, it's an efficiency matter for the fundraiser because you're going to be reaching out and really talking to the people. And it's about where you spend the time picking up the phone, asking them for some of the major gifts, which is really what helps propel your nonprofit to be able to survive the next time period. So major gifts is what a lot of these nonprofits just they rely on. It starts with the $20 gift, but you have to be able to monitor the engagement to know if they're reading your emails, to know if they're volunteering at your events, to see if they're going to be a candidate for the next major gift. One of the things that we touch on is we call it the donor journey. For us, it's about that initial gift or maybe that initial sign up for a newsletter that gets them involved to learn more about your organization. Donor Perfect just recently introduced the donor score, which
Okay.
actually is a calculation to help you prioritize your communication to your donors.
Okay.
And it's a brand new thing that we put right on the donor screen as soon as you pop into it. We also have
Oh,
a
that's neat.
list that you can sort and filter through so you know who to contact for the best productivity of fundraising.
I've worked with a lot of accounting systems and I've worked with a lot of CRMs and donor management. It's got its own place in this ecosystem of software and software stack. And even for implementers, it can take a lot of time and effort to just implement a system, whether it be migrating data from one to another, educating a team. So talk a little bit about the journey for an implementer or an organization looking to upgrade their system.
CRM, like an accounting package, is somewhat entrenched. There's a lot of data, a lot of history that's in there. One of the things that our team does is we do a data transformation when clients move off of whether it be Excel or one of the competing products that is out there. We actually have some transition services to help get the data in the right place. But once it's in that place, they're actually able to run very quickly. And the mean time before value, they can set up some of their online giving forms. They can set up some of their campaigns and so forth very quickly after that process has been done.
That's great. I helped one of our clients set up a donation form, and depending on the system you're using, it can either be intuitive or it can be pretty cumbersome.
And many nonprofits will actually, they'll say, I checked the box. I have a donation form, and it's still the same PayPal form that they used 20 years ago. And things have evolved to where donors actually expect to let it be easy to use and let it show appreciation to me with confetti when I give my gift. Then there's little things that we do. The average donor likes to be thanked 7 times.
7 times? I didn't know that.
That is
That's
the
intriguing.
statistical average of how much you want to, whether it be through the thank you receipt or what happens online, or actually reaching out with a handwritten note. Every organization has to decide where their threshold is. But in order to retain a donor, which is really hard, you have to make sure that you thank them properly.
Wow. And so, with those thank you letters and really any type of communication coming out of a system like this, do you have automation around that?
We do. When DonorPerfect receives a gift, we can communicate a thank you email. We also have something called Smart Actions, which is based on the data that gets inserted into the system, that we know that we need to alert the executive director because there was a significant gift that was made, and we're going to let it pop up in their system so that they can pick up the phone and call and thank that donor personally. That's what makes the difference between, why our clients are actually able to have an appreciable increase in their gifts after they install us.
Yeah. Now that piece of functionality, that's unique too. And I feel like I haven't seen that in many other softwares, really this triggering capability, which really is like a more complex developer function.
It almost is, and when you combine it, and I'm a recovering developer, so I mean, you combine it with the calculated fields that are inside of our system, you can actually say, if I want to identify a donor who has given $5,000 and also volunteered 10 hours of time, and I want to send the alert to all of my board members, the system can do that automatically.
That's great. And that's actually something that I love, the ability to customize. It sounds like Donor Perfect has an ability to customize custom fields, layouts, even some notification capability.
Very much so. As a matter of fact, our strong point is really in the screen designer, where you can create fields, create sections of fields on the main and the bio tabs on the gift field, so that you're tracking the very specific data that is unique to your organization. The systems themselves should be adaptable, but not all fundraisers care about the same things. That is what knowing your donor is all about. And so, my favorite example is if on the donor record, you want to say, do they prefer cats or dogs, puppies and kittens, how you then communicate to that donor should be reflective of what they shared with you. And that kind of custom information can you put into that.
I feel like that equates to real time savings. So that must be a big pain point, both cost and the ability to scale and potentially not add the headcount.
I would say yes, absolutely. If you take the time and set it up correctly, and you know this from accounting packages, right?
Yeah.
So you have to put your coding in place and so forth. Put a little bit of time in up front, and then the efficiencies and the automation comes very easily.
So what does that look like? You think like a timeline go live, a lot of people wonder, switching systems, that could take months, and some disasters years. and and so with that, I mean, it sounds like with the implementation here, this is something that could be weeks to months.
It can be weeks, depending on the data transformation or how many sources of data these clients may have. We have had, 15 different spreadsheets where donor data is actually recorded on, and our team will assemble all of that. But I would say generally the data transformations fall within 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow, that's
And
phenomenal.
we also have a hand-holding implementation team that is kind of like a white glove treatment. We make sure that you're aware of the critical things in the system that you need to have operating so that as soon as you possibly can, you're able to take donations online, you're ready for your next event, you're able to hold your auction, whatever that may be. We actually listen to what your priorities are in the coming months, and we make sure that those things are implemented first.
So a lot of the buzz here at the Sage Future Conference, and we've heard it from Aaron Harris,
Yeah.
CTO of Sage Global, is AI and its ability to really transform the way we do work. So what are you guys doing over at DonorPerfect?
Well, there's a couple of areas we're really trying to focus on. The early ones were really in helping you script the communication to the donor. So even if you're writing a direct mail piece, or if you're in our constant contact integration and you're writing an email to the client, those tools have the ability to help you draft your language so that it's the right piece. But in the next phase, we're going to see some more predictive, analytical type things where it's going to be able to suggest to you what is the next best thing for you to do from a fundraising perspective, either at the individual donor. And we even have some of this today where our major gift fundraising partner, Donor Search, is able to look at your whole database and analyze who is the most likely to respond to any kind of gift request that you're going to put out. And so that's a time saver, and it's AI driven based on the analytics of the gifts given and the emails open and the events attended.
So it sounds like there's an ability to track attendance at events, communications, whether they're engaging with actual emails, phone tracking. Is there an integration with phones?
More so that the person who is actually the solicitor for the donor is actually recording their communication, because at the end of the day, their notes have to be recorded.
Yeah, no, that's amazing because it sounds. I mean that puts all the data within a single system and then enables AI to extrapolate from it. The Sage integration. Now the ability for a best-in-class accounting system to integrate with a best-in-class donor management solution.
Absolutely. One of the things that happened in the analysis of how to get the data across was what are the key fields that we need to launch off of in DonorPerfect? And so they chose our general ledger solicitations campaign fields, and they mapped those to a dimension in Sage. And there's this matrix of anything to anything, any possible value that could happen that maps to any dimension in Sage. So it can even flag if you've got a gift that came in that wasn't properly coded. It comes up to the accounting team to say, hey, we can't map this thing correct. So let's go back and take a look at what the mapping fields are, get it straightened up, and get that information in there. This is creating trust in the information that's in accounting. And it's also creating speed, because by the next day, all your gift information is pushed into Sage Intacct.
Now that's real time savings. I remember extracting Excel spreadsheets, CSV files, manipulating the data. I remember having to develop VBA code just to manipulate the data. I remember that. And that can be a very difficult thing, especially if organizations, you only have one or two key staff members with that knowledge. And I mean, that just creates a key person risk that that sounds like Donor Perfect actually eliminates.
Well, it does. You want to de-risk your nonprofit for sure. I mean, we've seen it time and time again where there's a board member that volunteered their time, and then all of a sudden we're not able to do that kind of thing anymore. So one of the things that Sage uses is workflow and workflow automation. And DonorPerfect can give you the kind of gift processing workflow. We even have check scanning systems that when they open the mail and you insert the check in the solicitation slip from the machine, it automatically updates the DonorPerfect gift record. All of these things are designed to make sure that your data is accurate and it's going in, and you know that your donors actually gave what they gave. That makes the difference in fundraising.
That's huge. The ability to scan checks. I feel like a lot of nonprofits that, and maybe it's even religious organizations, they receive checks and they're hand keying those into their system.
Typically, to get an ROI on that type of system, you want to look for an organization that has maybe about 5,000 checks a year. But if they're doing the traditional fundraising and they're getting a lot of direct mail back in with a solicitation slip, the solicitation slip is coded with the campaign and the GL and all of that information on it, as well as the donor ID. So that's how it matches it up so that you actually get accurate information off of the machine. So we do that both for campaigns going out to existing donors, as well as there's companies that we work with that have what we call finder files, which are new prospective donors that you're going to do an outreach to, and they let you borrow the data, mail, and if you get a gift in, they become your donor.
That's huge. Yeah, that's really big. I'm just thinking of my own like church and how they do it. It's hand.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of donor management platforms are still connected to a server, and you've got to set up a VPN just to log in. And I remember having to connect to these things and they just disconnect constantly. And that can be extremely frustrating. So talk about how DonorPerfect is true cloud.
Actually, we were one of the early adopters. As early as 2000, they were beginning to craft the DonorPerfect cloud experience. And we had an installed experience. I mean, we are a 40-year-old company, so we've gone through the transition of different tech stacks. But in 2000, we chose a Microsoft stack and went cloud-based. And that has been so resilient that we have moved to different hosting platforms today. But the UI has been developed so that you're not looking through a little window of some text screen or something like that. You actually have the full width of your browser to be able to experience the information you need. And so when software is developed with cloud first mentality, your screens are just so much more efficient. It's very resilient in terms of your connection speeds and so forth. It has just been a game changer, and we still convert clients that are on an on-prem system and have an incredible retention rate with those clients.
No, that's phenomenal. That really gets to this buzz about, well, being true cloud means you are now set up and your tech stack is set up in a way that you can start to leverage some of the AI solutions that are out there. And, really these MCP servers that allow you to connect one system to a generative AI model.
Exactly. That's one of the new integrations that we developed. We talked a little bit about it with Donor Search and some of their scoring technique that they do. They grab all of that information through our open API, which is very easy to use, and some third parties are able to very quickly bring a return to market. And they're able to push this data into an AI model, whatever it may be that the client needs to get done in a very, very fast technology way. So even fundraisers who have to do the direct mail fundraiser, which is still viable today, depending on who your donor is, used to be a headache to go ahead and do address updates. We used to have to do an export and we'd send it off to a company that would reanalyze, clean up all the addresses. Now with the open API that DonorPerfect has, we have a vendor that goes in every night and refreshes the addresses based on the U.S. Postal Service to make sure that you're mailing to the right address. We're not wasting money on postage or your $9 annual report that costs. It's all accurate. So the ROI comes back to you in cost savings as well.
Well, that's a big point of contention too. I feel like a lot of nonprofits that leverage a donor management platform, they are continuously going through and reviewing their data. Is it correct? Do I need to update addresses, the phone numbers, the emails? And it sounds like there's a way for DonorPerfect to pretty much enrich their data.
Very much so. Through these address enrichment partners, engagement partners, and so forth, we're able to bring some additional information in that gives you real insight to the donor. And it makes sure that you're not going to make a mistake and send it to the wrong place. I mean, even the deceased flag that comes in from these third parties is important because it's very offensive if you're going to send a fundraising letter to a widow, who just recently, might have lost their spouse. So there's some real improvements to the fundraising process that happens as a result of this.
That is true power at play. And I'm so excited to have met you and met the solution. And I think it's something that a lot of organizations will find transformative. what they do.
Well, we hope so. I mean, this is kind of why we do what we do,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's yes, it's a job, but it's a mission. It's a mission to bring good technology to the nonprofits, which so many times they're maybe playing catch up.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
super thankful, Randy, that you took the time to look us up.
Thanks so much, and I appreciate your time today. Thanks, everyone. Join us again for another episode of Beyond the Numbers, where we go beyond the spreadsheets, beyond the chaos, and beyond the numbers. All right, that was my conversation with Darryl from DonorPerfect, and I want to land the plane with a few practical takeaways that you can actually use. First, donor management is not just a list of names and addresses. It's the story of a relationship. Gifts, volunteering, events attended, emails opened, and the signals that tell you who's leaning in. If you can't see that story clearly, your team ends up spending time in the wrong places. Second, automation is not about being less human, it's about being more consistent. The right tools can help you respond quickly when a gift comes in. Keep gratitude from falling through the cracks and trigger the right internal actions when something important happens. That means fewer missed opportunities and better donor retention. Third, integration is where the real operational leverage shows up. When a donor activity flows cleanly into your financial system with the right coding, your team stops exporting spreadsheets, stops hand keying, and stops relying on one heroic person who knows how the magic works. You get cleaner books, faster closes, and more trust in the numbers. If your nonprofit is feeling stuck in spreadsheet land, or your donor and finance workflows feel like organized chaos, you're not alone. But you also have options. Start small. Map your donor journey. Pick one automation and improve donor follow up. And then tackle the handoffs between fundraising and finance. If you want help thinking through what your next step should be, reach out. Even one conversation with us can save your team weeks of frustration and help you reinvest time where it belongs, the mission. I'm Randy Kardas, and thanks for tuning into the podcast where we go beyond the spreadsheets, beyond the chaos, and beyond the numbers. I'll see you next time.